In this video, we are going to rank every single building inside of Tilted Towers. I put up a community post asking you guys which POI you would like me to do this for, and Tilted Towers won by a landslide, at least as of recording this. Tilted has some of the most notable and notorious buildings in really any POI, and so I figured let's just do that. I should note that we are doing the latest iteration of Tilted Towers, so like the outdoor equipment building, that will not be in this list, although it was a building at one point in Tilted Towers. It has since been changed to, I believe it's the No Sweat Insurance building. If you go on to enjoy this video, be sure to leave it a like and use code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop if you'd like to continuously support my channel. It means a lot. With all that out of the way, let's get right into this. This will be a fun one. So in my opinion, the worst building in Tilted Towers is the coffee shop. This is like the barely one-story building right under the basketball court in the corner. And if I remember correctly, there's like 1 or 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky, chest spawns there. Most people would just opt to go to any other building except for this one. And I'm even surprised it's like technically considered a building, but as the Fortnite wiki says, yes, it is a building. At the end of the day, this is just a building that you would only go to if you miss your drop at like Big Red or Goldfish or basically any of the other high tier loot buildings. So yeah, in my opinion, definitely the worst. At the number 10 spot is Nom's grocery store building. This is the small little like market looking building right to the right, or I guess behind of Big Gray, that is attached to like the little apartment room. Again, just nothing special here. This is basically somewhere where you're not really going to land. You're just going to kind of scurry into and find a chest or two. And this ends up being a pretty chaotic area in Tilted, as it's basically in the middle. It's right next to, or basically in the middle of, all the main buildings. So honestly, this is a location that you probably want to stay away from. You're at the lowest point in the entire POI. If you find yourself here in the middle of probably the first minute or 2 of a game, there's not a great chance you're going to survive. But at the number 9 spot, and let me tell you, I have a hot take for you guys here. That is the clock tower. This is honestly like probably the most well-known building in Fortnite history, but at Tilted Towers, this just ends up being a death trap. Everybody knows that if you are dropping into Tilted and you go clock tower right away, you are going to be met with 2, 3, or 4 people just spamming pickaxes at you. There is a very small chance that you actually drop clock tower and make it out alive somehow. But with that being said, if you are able to make it out alive, you probably come out with 2 or 3 kills, the chance of 4 chest spawns in this tiny building, and the highest point in the entire POI. So yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, it can be good, but let's be honest, 99% of the time when you drop here, you are going to die. That really, honestly, just is the truth, and everybody watching this video knows it. It's such a crazy building. I mean, it's made it into Chapter 4, it's made it into live events, cutscenes, everything. The clock tower is somehow there. It's even come back to the game in Chapter 2, Season 6 in Boney Burbs, I believe it was. Regardless, at the number 8 spot, another hot take here is the pawn shop. Look, I'm not saying the pawn shop is a bad spot to drop. I know a lot of people really love this place and live by this location. And it's really good for being that like kind of side location in Tilted. It doesn't get a ton of traffic. You can just kind of be on your own, loot a couple chests, and then rotate into like the main part of Tilted, right? But there are 2 real, I guess, main problems with the pawn shop. One is that you always will get third party. I mean, I can say this for any building in Tilted, but specifically the pawn shop, since it's right on the outskirts of the location, anybody that would land shifty shafts or any of those POIs and rotate in would always rotate through pawn shop side. I have been killed so many times at the pawn shop just by people third partying and rotating from those POIs on that side of the map. It also only has, I think, like 4 or 5 at the max chest spawns. Guys, we're gonna be talking about buildings that have 15 to 20 chest spawns, so yeah, the pawn shop obviously doesn't stand up in that regard. It's still a decent location though, not terrible. At the number 7 spot is the taco house. And this is the building that is basically like right next to the garden area with like all the bushes and trees right to the right of that if you're looking from like the Big Gray side. And unfortunately, this building suffers the same problems as the pawn shop when it's on the outskirts like that, and it has that big hill like perfectly lined up right next to it. The amount of times I've gotten third partied from that hill from people rotating in is honestly obscene. But this is like a great kind of low-key building to land at. Again, a lot of people want to land at the big, tall, huge buildings, but this has a solid amount of chest spawns in a small space. It's got a lot of natural cover around it. It's a pretty solid building. You have the lower like taco shop area, and then you have the actual house part that's like attached to it, and both are pretty solid. Again, I don't think it's like anything crazy special. It's nothing out of this world, but if you need a last-minute location to drop at Tilted and you miss your drop at like Clock Tower or something, yeah, absolutely drop here. At the number 6 spot is the brick house. This is the one with the garage under it right in front of the pawn shop. And I kind of just like hinted at this with the taco house, but this is basically the go-to drop if you miss clock tower. The amount of times that I've like solely gone for the clock tower, seen 4 people pickaxing up there, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going up there, and just go straight to this building is insane. This building does play really weird though because of that garage area. You have a lot of people fighting under there or just kind of like hiding under there waiting for you to come out the front door. But I really like the location of this building. Yes, it's on outskirts, but you don't get as many people rotating into this area because everybody goes to pawn shop first, or they'll go to the taco house if they're going to come from that side. Everything about this is pretty good. The problem is when people are done at pawn shop, where do they go? Well, they go right to this building. And anytime you land here, you are obviously in danger from the people going to the clock tower. If somebody gets a gun, just hop on top of the clock tower and drop down and start shooting you while you're pickaxing the top. Overall though, I gotta say, really good building, and it absolutely could be higher on this list. At number 5, I'm gonna put the L buildings, or the L apartments. I'm gonna consider this the one that's right next to Goldfish, that building in the kind of right corner of Tilted Towers if you're looking from the Shifty Shaft side, and the one that is right next to the clock tower, right to the right of clock tower. One is 2 stories, one is 3 stories, but they have the exact same setup, so I'm gonna put them together. And they're both really good buildings. I love the setup of these. If you're playing duos or something, you can just have somebody land on one L and someone land on the other L, and you're good. The problem with these buildings, at least what I feel in the games that I played at Tilted Towers, was these things were just the definition of getting third party. They were in direct proximity to 2 or 3 of the biggest buildings in the entire game, and I know so many people who would just land at like Goldfish. They would just sit in the window and just pick off people that were looting the L buildings. And the same could be said for Big Gray. People would do the same thing, just sit in the windows and just pick people off running through there. They do have really good loot. Also, underrated fact is the like yellow wood pallets that are there that give you a ton of matches, a bunch at these locations. And they have a really unique setup. Of course, they're shaped like L's, but there's multiple floors. Chests are hidden everywhere. So if you know how to loot this place correctly, you can outplay anybody that's going to chow you there because you know the ins and outs of a building like this. Most of the buildings I've discussed so far are like pretty straightforward, nothing crazy, I guess, except for the pawn shop, which has the underground area. But yeah, the L buildings get my approval. They are really good buildings. And at the number 4 spot is what my squad and I call Big Red, or basically just the 6-story apartment that is right basically behind Big Ray. And this building is absolutely massive. This is the building. It's the best way I can describe it. This is where the Ninja famous revolver clip took place, right at the base floor of this building. It has like the little garage out the front. It's really good. And yeah, this is one of the main hot drops in Tilted Towers. It's basically this, Goldfish, and Big Gray. Those are the big 3. And if you land here, you're able to get that chest a lot of times. There is that one chest that will spawn on the roof, and it is highly contested, but if you get it, you have such a good vantage point. You can basically pick off anybody on any side of Tilted. My only problem is, man, I just hate how this building is set up. Those column stairs are an absolute nightmare to basically go up. If someone's up top there, you're basically screwed. And the rooms just feel really weird. There's like that one like white room with the kind of hole in the top that has a couple of chest spawns in there, and then you have the one room on top that's like the bedroom, and then you have like the bottom floor which has this weird like garage cutout and then a bathroom. I don't know, the way the rooms are set up is really weird for gunfights, and oftentimes if you don't have good communication with your squad, you can get lost in here. Still, I really can't deny the fact that there are basically double-digit chest spawns here. That's really good. At the number 3 spot though, we're inside the top 3 if you can believe it. That is the office building / the no sweat insurance building. And I guess this one really needs some explanation because it wasn't always the no sweat insurance building. In the early seasons of chapter 1, this thing was destroyed over and over and over again. I said it in the beginning of this video. It used to be like the camping store, and then like the meteors destroyed it, and like the cube destroyed it. I mean, it just kept getting built up and destroyed, but then no sweat insurance came in, built what they had to build basically, and now that's what it is. If you play like any type of Tilted Zone Wars, this building is always in there. And it is a really popular building because it is directly next to Big Ray, right to the left of it, probably 10 steps and you can get there. And that has its positives and negatives. You know, if you land here, you're not only going to be highly contested by the people that are just dropping at that house, but also the people that are going to be landing at Big Ray and fleeing from there because they got no loot. But if you want constant action, constant fighting, absolutely, this is one of the best places in the entire game, honestly, not just Tilted Towers, but any POI to land at. And similar to the L buildings, it's a really interesting setup, right? You have the one building that's connected to the other one through like that little patio, and then there's also another garage like bottom area. And this is another building that can get extremely complicated if you don't have great communication from your teammates. You can get absolutely lost here and basically like pretty much like bamboozled from any good players. Quick mirage nice reference from Apex Legends there, but basically by anybody who actually has been there and is a pro of that building. But it is in the top 3 for a reason. There's a ton of chest spawns, a ton of action, and you're in close proximity with all the other buildings. So even if your teammate doesn't land there, you can rotate to them easily. All right, we are into the top 2, and I'll be honest with you, I think these were absolute locks to be in the top 2. I thought that these were no doubters, but in what order, right? At the number 2 spot is Goldfish. And if you don't know why it's called Goldfish, just look at the ceiling from above when you're landing in, and it looks like a goldfish. And if you don't refer to it like that, it is basically that massive, really skinny brick building all the way in the corner of the POI closest to Loot Lake. And if I'm correct, this is the highest vantage point in the entire POI, higher than Clock Tower, higher than Big Gray. So if you are able to get on top of that thing with good weapons, you can literally see the entire POI. And yes, while it does suffer from the same thing as some of those other outskirt buildings where the third partying is prevalent, it's not as prevalent here because one, well, not many people actually dropped Loot Lake, so a lot of people weren't rotating from that side. But I mean, simply put it, you are at the highest point in the entire location. For someone to third party and challenge you, they would have to go not only onto the hill, but then build multiple stairs up to you. At that point, if you don't hear them or you don't notice them, I mean, I don't know. That's on you, I guess. I also really like how this building is set up inside. One, it has a ton of chest spawns and a ton of yellow pallets for really good mats. But I like how the staircases are done here. As I mentioned before, in the 6-story brick apartment or Big Red, it's basically just a spiral staircase straight up to the top. But here it's like a staircase and then a floor, and then you have like those little walls sticking out the side, like those little panels where you can almost hide in or wait for somebody to come up the stairs. And then the stairway continues and you do the same thing again. I really like the way this building is set up. It makes for some really good plays, and you can basically third party anybody at Big Gray or L buildings or like down by the garage area. You can see everything. Also, it goes forgotten, but this does have like the little shop section, I guess like the one that looks like a little deli at the bottom. But I mean, guys, let's be honest, there's no way it was going to beat out the number 1 building in Tilted Towers. We all know what it is. It's the best building in Fortnite history. It's Big Gray, Trump Tower, whatever you want to call it, just the massive, big looking castle building, the gray one in the center of the location. I mean, I'll keep it short and sweet here. What else do I have to say about this thing? It is the biggest building. It has the most chest spawns, the most players drop here. If you watch any streamer in early Fortnite, they were all dropping at this exact building. The Nick Merckx clip that went like absolutely viral where he's like singing, dancing, gets absolutely destroyed by a pump shotgun, that happened in the staircase of this building. I mean, I'm telling you, there was like 10 to 20 people that would land at this spot every single game. It's absolutely chaotic. It's insane. Not only can you land here and kill people there, but you can also rotate anywhere in the entire location. You are smack dab in the center. It just has everything you want from a chaotic location, and if you're dropping Tilted Towers, that's what you're looking for. All right, guys, I know this was kind of a different video, a little bit of a goofy video, but I wanted to try out a little bit of a different ranking video, not so much weapons or items, but different buildings within POIs. Let me know what video idea you'd like to see next, or if you'd like to see me do this with a different POI and its buildings, such as Retail Row, Salty Springs, all those other ones. But with all that being said, guys, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.